Okay, here's Nickel working on her very first jump chute. The spacing is 5, 6, 6, 9, and at the moment we don't have any bars up. So let's take a look. We're going to look at it in full speed, and then I'm going to slow it down and break it up and show you some interesting things that you might want to know about her jumping. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing to note, a couple things. First of all, she has a fabulous stay. Her weight is shifted way to her rear in the stay, which is excellent. That means she can power out of it, which we like. Also, she's working for a toy, which is great for developing drive and convincing her that this weird thing that we're asking her to do is just part of a game. So that is some two really fundamental skills that you have with her that are going to bode very well for jump training. Okay, so this is a lovely position. Notice how she's landed halfway between the stride regulator or the speed bump and the first jump. That's exactly what we want to see. Nice driving position. This is a little bit over jumping for no bar, but she's just figuring it out. What she was attempting to do was jump the red and the green jumps together. She didn't quite make that, but that was her thought process. Here's her apex. That's the highest point of her arc over the purple jump. It's actually quite well timed. She's a tiny bit early, but it's an appropriate height. This next series of pictures shows a very important skill for the dogs when they're jumping, and it's the shift from their weight fully on their front end to fully on their rear end to take off for the next jump. So this is where that exercise where you have them rock back, pick up their front feet, and then release up. This is where that comes directly speaks. So you can see almost the same motion, only she's going forward with her momentum instead of just up. So that is what we're targeting when we're working on that skill, that part of the jump. Here's her apex over the last bar, very nicely timed. Nice relaxed stretch in the rear. Granted, she's only jumping nothing. Now, the only thing here is I would target her a bit lower, like down by your ankle, and that will help drop her head over the bars, which is a little bit better form. Okay, here's round 2. No bars. Okay, so let's look at a couple of different things. The first thing that's pretty interesting here is Nickel is gearing up to plant her front feet on the closest side of the speed bump. But watch what happens. Look at the power here. She changes her mind and decides to stride over without taking a step. Look at the bend to her stifle and her hock. That is phenomenal power. So she is going to be fast on course. Unfortunately, it was not the greatest decision because instead of landing in between the speed bump and the first jump, she kind of lands on it. So it takes her a little while to fix it. But she's got lovely driving form. Look at her head low. So this is really fun to see. Okay. Another big piece of agility jump training as well as handling is manipulating your dog's lead leg. And so this might be a little bit difficult to see, but Nickel is on her left lead. That means that her left front leg is landing farthest forward, and it is also landing on the ground last. And that's important to know when a dog is jumping because that influences how they can turn. Dogs turn toward their lead leg. So if they have to turn the other direction, they have to switch leads. The reason she's on her left lead is because you are standing on her left side. She is going to come up on your right. So that's how she knows to be on the left lead. And we can use that to our advantage on course. Okay, so this picture is interesting for a couple reasons. One is notice that she's taking off equidistant almost perfectly between the two jumps. So she's starting to read the spacing better and better. And remember that the spacing between the last two jumps is 9 feet, but the spacing between the previous two jumps is 6, which means she had to change her stride length very deliberately in order to be able to do this. In addition, Notice that her rear legs are planting well forward of her front legs. That means that she's shifting her weight back onto her rear so that she can power over this next stride, whether it's a jump or not. So this is indicative of a dog that is really driving, and exactly what we want to see. It also requires great flexibility in her spine to be able to do this. So hopefully you can start to see that there's the toy drive coming into play. There's the mental agility of reading the puzzle and focusing on the job at hand. There's the physical ability and the confirmation. And then there are the physical skills associated with jumping well. Lots of stuff happening here. Okay, now we're at 8 inches. Okay, so I'm not going to break up this one so that you can kind of focus this time on the fluidity, the efficiency. This is very, very nice work, so you can just admire your dog here. Okay, here we're starting the bounce test. Alrighty, so her striding, she's off a little bit right at the beginning here, right there. So she adds the 2 strides, but then she fixes it, and she actually does a really nice job of scoping out the spacing she has available, using her energy appropriately to time her apex right over each bar. And she's taking off and landing about equidistant between each jump. So there's some really good maturity here in her understanding of the puzzle ahead of her. Lovely position. Sort of reminded me a little bit of a Lipizzaner. We were talking about that. So very nice. So based on that, I'm going to start raising the bars. We're going to 8 inches this time. Very nicely done. Okay, so the thing I want to point out here is this is a good distance back from the first jump. The reason I say that is she comes out of her stay position. This is her first stride. Notice how she's going to stretch out to try to pick an ideal takeoff point for this first jump. Now, she's a little bit too far away, so she's going to land a little bit too close to the green jump for perfect striding. You'll notice that she fixes it on the next round. So see how she's a little bit closer to the green than the red. Not quite ideal. Nice bend to her stifle and her hock. Beautiful front leg position. Lovely form. It's a bit hard to tell, but this is rounded form. We'll see that when she has her haircut. Nice back tuck in the rear. A little bit early on her apex there. A little bit early on her apex here. You can see it should be right through the center of her body. This is another back tuck. See how her rear legs are tucked up behind her. So she's very confident. Very consistent. This is a lovely apex. Jumping an appropriate height. 8 inches is just very, very low for her. Nice position with your target. Gives her plenty of room to decelerate. Okay, so that's even better. This is now at 12 inches. Now notice how much closer she is to the jump taking off this time. So she's adjusted her striding coming out of the stay to better suit the puzzle ahead of her. So that's really smart. Beautiful landing, just smack in between the 2 jumps. Lots of impulsion directed forward, not too much going up, which is just what we want to see. Here's that weight shift from the front to the rear. Good flexibility. I like some of the profiles that her haircut creates. I just thought this was pretty. That's why it's there, with her little ponytail sticking up and stuff. She definitely looks like a really cool creature. Another beautiful picture. So, lovely form, perfectly timed apex, lovely height, nice rounded form, head low below the shoulders. Another pretty jump. So, she's got some natural abilities that she's bringing to bear. We can help her. I'm glad you're in class, but she's quite an athlete.